Good evening, everyone. How the devil are you? It's Friday. For once, the sun is actually shining. The beer is cold. The beer is poured. Welcome to the weekend. A little bit of housekeeping for those who are interested, because somebody always asks. This evening, I will be mainly on the Holston Pills. Let's start the way we usually do by having a look at who was first in. Scrolling, my dear me, you have been talkative, but then again, I set the stream up a little bit earlier this week. So, Big Bucky was the first one in. Really looking forward to the beer or noon today. Then we have Anton and Danny Hancock. A bit of back and forth between you guys. Then we have Dr. Gomez. And who else we got in? Scott Guitars. Evening, Dan. How are you, mate? And there's Luke's is in. And scrolling down again. Ian Clark. How are you, mate? Edwin Toonan. And who else we got? Johnny Random. Nice to see you, mate. And James Hunt. Scrolling down again, we've got you people having a bit of a conflab there, a bit of a conversation. Grandpa Joe is in. Peter Collins we have in this evening, and keeping going. Chaos Music is in. That's Thomas from Germany, who is now the owner of the Harley Benton SC550 that I give away. Hope you're enjoying the guitar there, Thomas. And who else we got? Let's have a look. Vincent Brennan is in, as is Phil and Lawrence Hastings. It's starting to fill up. Paul Traynor, the resident bass player, is in. Dave Lewis, John Ross, and scrolling down, Frank Bolam and Bridget Pollock. And who else? Let's have a look here. Reeled in 58. And what else we got coming on down here? Gordo Canuck, the Time Prophet. And let's keep going. Wrexham Mattix in. Evening, Rex, or whatever time of day it is with you, mate. Scotty the Fox and William Forrest is in. David Collins, the Essex Cat. And Steve Entwistle is in. WKCC champion, hello from Italy, he says, and Colin Falcon is in. Steve Muskie's here, evening Muskie, and Malcolm Spillett, and I think that's pretty much everyone. Apologies if I've missed you, and apologies are also in order for something a little slip of the tongue last week. I blame the fact that I had beer. I was struggling to think of the name of a great legato player from the UK, and I called him Dan Quayle, who I had to Google who that was. Apparently, it's a US politician from some time back. It's actually Tom Quayle. That was the name I was thinking of. So apologies to both parties for misnaming both of you. And yes, Tom Quayle, absolutely amazing legato player. Anyway, I just seen we've got Hayes Music, the artist formerly known as Ozzy, until I think of a better name, he says. So, as is usual at this point, the only such plan that I have for these Friday evenings is to tell you what's coming up on the channel this week. And usually I make a list, but I've been absolutely rushed off my feet today, and I haven't had a chance to make the list, so I'm relying on the old noggin power here. So, Sunday's video, it's a little bit of a jam that I'm having over one of Mike's backing tracks. Mike from CGS, China Guitar Skeptic. I've joined his Patreon, and as a result, I've got access to all of the stuff that he puts up there, including his jam tracks. Me and Mike were going to have a little bit of a collaboration a little while ago, but it never really happened. So I just thought it would be nice to show the guy a bit of support because of the way he's continuing to put up some great content despite what he's going through. I think we all know that. No need to rake over all of that. So I joined his Patreon, got access to his backing tracks, and I thought, well, yeah, that's a good excuse to finally do that collaboration. So that's Sunday's video. Mike's also going to be putting the video up. I've given him the, in return for him letting me post the jam track that he created to my Patreon supporters, I've given him the tabs and the video so that he can share that with his Patreon supporters as well. So that's Sunday's video. Monday, we have a good old-fashioned bit of classic rhythm and blues, 70s British blues rock from a band I've only featured once on the channel so far, and I thought it was about time I did some again. So this is, well, I won't keep you in suspense because it's I can't think of anything suitably cryptic enough to kind of tease you with. Basically, we're looking at the solo from Dr. Feelgood's hit Milk and Alcohol. Anyone remember that from, was it in 1978 or 79? So that's the Monday solo. Then on Tuesday, we are looking at it's a top five, and yeah, it's the 5 most commonly asked questions I get. The five things that beginner or intermediate guitar players come to me with problems, and basically how to solve them. It's that kind of thing. The solutions to the 5 most commonplace problems that beginner and intermediate guitarists come up with. So that's Tuesday's video. Wednesday is the final episode in the series I'm doing on rhythm guitar. I said I was going to be winding that up soon, and the viewing figures for it are a little bit, they've been a bit tailing off, shall we say. So I'm winding that one up. It's a nice point to end it on as well, because it just kind of gets us to, we've covered all the different aspects of blues rhythm guitar. We've covered 8th note strumming, we've covered 16th note strumming, we've covered power chords and funk and damping and all that sort of stuff. So there's just one more element I wanted to cover in that series of videos. So that will be on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, God, I can't believe I'm remembering all of this. On Thursday, it's a gear demo, first impressions, and kind of just basically a first impressions kind of run through of something. Essentially, someone has sent me an amplifier. If I pick you up now and point you down there, you can see the said amplifier. It is a Moore SD30. A chap called Jim very, very kindly sent me that amplifier, basically because he bought it in error. You'll find out more on the video on Thursday what that's all about. But basically, he bought it in error, realized it wasn't a good fit for him, so he sent it to me and to do a video on, and then it will be getting passed on to Zoe's place. That's the plan anyway. That's where it's going to be going. I've got a couple of bits and pieces that need to go to Zoe's place at the moment. You can probably just see lurking there underneath the acoustic guitar that Epiphone bolt-on Les Paul copy, or Les Paul, shall we say, that I did a couple of weeks ago. That hasn't got to Zoe's place yet, because the lady who usually comes and picks up the donations that I give to Zoe's place is on annual leave at the moment, so she's not back until I think the beginning of next month, and then it's she's going to pop round and pick up that and the amplifier that I'm going to be donating as well, courtesy of Jim. And that is what is coming up on the channel this week. Let's have a little bit of a look in the chat and find a point of conversation, something we can have a bit of a natter about. And I see we've got David Evans in as well. Edwin Toonan saying we need to stop gossiping about John now since he's in. Yeah. The thing is, Edwin, when you're talking about me, you're leaving somebody else alone, I suppose, aren't you? So there you go. And Thomas is saying Cowes Music, enjoying the guitar every time. And what else we got? Yes. Oh, Dan Quayle was vice president of the USA and couldn't spell potato. Well, fair enough. Well, There's worse things to be remembered for, I suppose, isn't there, if you're a politician, than, kind of bad spelling. I think we can all think of plenty of politicians who have, a list of bullet points that include things worse than poor spelling. Anyway. Paul Gilbert is a great legato player from the UK. He was in Mr. Big. I think you might have your wires crossed there, Time Prophet. I'm not saying Paul Gilbert isn't a great legato player, but I tend to associate him more with alternate picking. And he certainly isn't from the UK. Excuse me, a bit throaty this evening. What's this? Ironside took delivery rather of a Chapman ML1 Pro hybrid. Some folks have more money than sense. Yeah, well, I don't know. I've never reviewed a Chapman guitar. I've thought about it a couple of times, but there's always been something else better to spend my money on, something different that I've chosen to spend the money on. Let's say I have played a few Chapman guitars, and whilst the build quality on them and everything seems quite nice, I've the 2 or 3 I think that I've played certainly had setup issues. But then again, that's hardly something that you can. You can't really say that any one guitar company is unique in that respect, can you? Dr. Gomez is saying, love Dr. Feelgood. And Ian Clark starting with the lyrics there. So, where are we? Let's have a look. Steve Entwistle's waiting for the Dr. Feelgood solo on. I can't tell you how many times I always thought that solo was like the previous Dr. Feelgood solo I did, which was down at the Doctor's. I always thought that was Wilco Johnson because I was a bit sketchy on the history of the band, and I didn't realise that Wilco left quite as early into the band's kind of career as he did, and it was Jippy Mayo that played on both of those, but I stand corrected on that. Dr. Feelgood are one of those bands, though, aren't they? They're a little bit like, if you know the kind of the phenomenon of Trigger's Broom. For any American viewers, there's a comedy in the UK which features called Only Fools and Horses, which features a character called Trigger, who has a broom that he's had it for 20 years, and all that time it's only had 4 new heads and 3 new shafts. And Dr. Feelgood are very much a band like that. I don't think there's any original members left. I might be wrong, but Lee Brillo sadly no longer with us. Wilco left at some point. When was it? 75. So you only got a bass player and a drummer. I don't think those guys are original anymore either. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Where are we? Time Prophet is saying, I can't get that Pink Floyd rhythm down. It's really hard to miss strums. Yep, that is the thing that that people have problems with. It's the instinct is to kind of wait, and then when you've waited, you realise that you've stopped, and then you start to try and catch up again, and it's just something that you just need to do really slowly and methodically at a ridiculously slow tempo, and gradually ease it up. It's that there aren't any shortcuts. I remember struggling with that kind of thing myself for a long time, but it was just literally I had a metronome of the old school, the kind of the clockwork wind up ones with the kind of the ticking needle like that. And it's practicing with a metronome is not a fun or engaging or entertaining or kind of thing to do, really. It's just one of those things that it's like that foul tasting cough medicine that you sometimes had to take when you were a kid. It's unpleasant, but it does the job, and you just have to kind of grit your teeth and try and enjoy it. You can sort of get into a state of mind when you're playing with a metronome where it just becomes this kind of Zen thing of trying to kind of hit the beat as accurately as possible and carry out the rhythm. And with a lot of practice, you can get to I wouldn't say enjoy it, but kind of you can get so that you can just get in the zone for it, and that's really speaking what you need to do to conquer any rhythmic trickery that you might be having. What else are we talking about in the chat? Come on, my mouse is on strike. Right. Scott Guitars is talking about the Boss DR3. Yes, I don't know if that's. I used to have the bigger brother of that, and it was the be all and end all when it came out in, I think, about 1994. The Boss DR5. Does anybody ever had experience of one of those things? A little kind of square drum machine that did all kinds of instrument sounds as well. I think I recorded an album with that just on the old Fostex 4-track recorder as well. Let's have a look, see what else we can talk about here. Talking about Dr. Feelgood, I think Steve Wellen, the current Feelgood's guitarist, has been in the band longer than any of the originals, apart from Lee Brillo. That's interesting to know. I think it's encouraging, actually, when a band does do that. When a band can become bigger than any of the members. And I see somebody's just hit me with a super chat. Let's just see who that was. Last live stream for a couple. Let's put you up on screen there, Brad. Thank you so much, by the way. Last live stream for a couple of months. I'm off to Canada and Australia. We'll catch up with the recording. Meanwhile, have a pint and donate to Zoe's place. Cheers for all you've done up to now. Well, that is very, very generous of you. Thank you so much. You're a gentleman and a scholar. I will make sure. No, I'm not going to have a pint out of that. That will all go to Zoe's place. Well, once YouTube have taken their from it, So, yes, as I was saying, when a band can sort of survive despite any of the original members, kind of long since departing, I think that is, it's a good thing, because it shows that that a band can survive. It's like, you wouldn't think that, again, I make this comparison all the time, you wouldn't think that, well, all of the original members of the London Symphony Orchestra are no longer with us, so that has to kind of shut up shop. I just think it's great that the music can continue and hand it on to another generation. Where are we? Perhaps you could do a lesson on Dr. Feelgood's version of Violent Love. At some point, I can't rule it out, mate. I don't like to kind of revisit the same artist too often, though. As I said when I did that David Gilmour thing, that the Money solo, it would be easy enough for me to do a David Gilmour solo once a month. It could be my channel, if I'm not careful, could very easily degenerate into a Clapton, Gary Moore, Peter Green, Mark Knopfler, David Gilmour, repeat. It's just, I want to be a little bit more diverse than that if I can. Speaking of which, I've just finished. I'll give you an advance warning of this now. I didn't give you any kind of cryptic clues about this coming Monday's solo analysis, so I shall give you one about the following Monday. A week on Monday, I'm going to be doing an absolutely fantastic guitar solo by a guy who I just never really thought of as a guitarist. So think of an unsung guitar hero. He was in I suppose you could call them a progressive rock band. Massive, not some kind of obscure, kind of chin strokey kind of, band from the back end of Beyond. No, this was a band who were absolutely massive, had hit singles, but they were still kind of regarded as a progressive rock band. And there's one of their songs has an immense guitar solo on it, and I didn't realise it was this guy who played it. And that's as much as I'm going to say. No, not Steve Hackett, not Prince. I see you're all typing Flake. Michael Broadhead is saying, is there any room in your heart for wah wah? Well, the solo I've just been talking about actually has wah wah on it. The only thing is I don't have a wah pedal. Well, I do, but it's got no. I've got my foot on it now. Hang on a sec. I've got this old knackered Crybaby that's got no gubbins in the middle of it. It's just it acts as a footrest for when I'm playing, but an actual wah pedal, I don't have one. So when I need to do wah on something, I'll use a plug-in, and I use the old mouse wheel to control the wah in post production. So there you go. Yes, I do love a bit of wah wah. No, it's not Hackett, it's not Midge Ure, not Frank Zappa. It's a UK based band, but there was an international element to them. And as I say, yeah, I can't really give you any more clues without telling you, and I'm not going to tell you. So, not Martin Barr of Jethro Tull. No, it's not that. Do the Peter Frampton voice box. Do you know, that's something I'm surprised. There is a plug-in for just about everything these days. And to my knowledge, because I did in the early days of the Patreon thing on the channel, I did do a Frampton solo. Well, I've done one since as well, actually. I did the Show Me the Way solo. And I was thinking, there's got to be, a VST to do that kind of, kind of talk box kind of thing. And could I find one? Could I? Hell. So it just surprises me that there isn't one. I'm sure there probably is, but, if there is one, it's probably that there is one. But, it's like in the same way as how many Tube Screamer plugins are there? How many wah plugins are there? How many different, plugins are there for all other effects, chorus, etc., flange, but there isn't a plugin for that, so far as I could tell. If anybody knows different, then please, please kind of tell me. Okay, somebody's asking for the time frame. Well, it's the classic era of progressive rock, really. We're talking this is a song from an album that came out in 1978 or 79. And if I tell you that the album cover featured sort of a kind of a representation of a famous skyline. There we go. There we go. Someone's got it. Sam C's got it. I'm not going to put him up on screen, so you'll have to... Oh, hello. We've got an idiot in the chat. Let's block user. There we go. And... yes. Please, everyone, I'm trying to deal with this, but just ignore the idiot in the chat. Let's yeah. Okay, there's an idiot in the chat. Just ignore, and they will soon get tired. Yeah, it is Supertramp. Oh, there's a voice box emulator on your Boss ME50 multi-effects. Nice to know. I just handy to I wonder if there's a VST of it, though. That's the thing. Yes, it is Supertramp. Oh, that thing's been on. That idiot bot has been on Phil McKnight's a few times recently. To be honest with you, we seem to have got away scot-free without that kind of activity on here for quite a while of late. I think last year was the last time we had anybody playing silly buggers like that. Oh. What's that? Is that Antares or Antares Articulator VST? I'm going to make note of that. Articulator. Thank you. There we go. I'm going to check that out. There might be a review video in that. Thank you so much, Steve. That's very helpful of you. And someone else has got the Obviously, my cryptic clues weren't cryptic enough. So yes, that is. It's a Supertramp solo by Roger Hodgson. As I say, I never ever. I see whenever I think of Supertramp, I don't really think of them as a particularly guitar-centric band. And when I think of Roger Hodgson, I don't really think of him as a guitarist. My sort of mental image of him is of him sat behind that Wurlitzer piano singing the Logical song. Yeah. Chip Young is saying super. Sorry for the fog. Just think of it as dry ice. One of my favourite bands, one of mine as well. I mean, at some point I'll probably do another top 5 list on albums. I did like quite a few sort of album-based top 5s at when at the beginning of the whole pandemic lockdown kind of thing. And as I say in all of those videos, it's this is my favourite 5 today. Ask me again next week, and it might all be different. So it might be time to revisit that. But certainly on rotation at the moment. Let me tell you the albums I'm listening to most at the moment are Black Star Riders, All Hell Breaks Loose, Supertramp, Crime of the Century, Hard Road, John Mayall, Gary Moore, Still Got the Blues, and Alchemy by Dire Straits. Those are the albums that I seem to be kind of going for, because I listen on Spotify, and you're kind of scrolling through, and you think, yeah, I know I only listened to that one yesterday, but I want to listen to it again today. And those are the 5 that keep cropping up at the moment. I got to tell you. Paul Trainer's saying Black Star Riders, giving them a thumbs up. Yeah, how I discovered that band actually was, I've probably mentioned this before. In fact, I'm sure I have. I used to do a little radio show on just a little community radio station here in Redcar. Gosh, getting on for about 10 years ago now, and and it was the drive time show. I used to do the Friday drive time show, and I used to do a late night jazz show as well. But that was pre-recorded. I used to do the Friday drive show live, and somebody tweeted into the studio to say, play Bound for Glory by the Black Star Riders. So, you kind of, you don't have to kind of actually get a record or anything like that, or even a CD. You just type it into the system, and yeah, sure enough, that it was on the system. So I put it on, because it was one of the things you have to do on the radio. You have to do this thing called back timing, where if you've got to hit the news at the top of the hour, and it's and you've got a tune that's 3 minutes and 46 seconds long. You have to do that instant calculation of when to hit play so it'll finish right on the button. And for whatever reason, it was either going to the news or the traffic or something like that. This song was absolutely perfect for that slot that I had to hit. So I played it, and I'm listening to it. I think, this sounds a lot like Thin Lizzy. This sounds like a Thin Lizzy tune, and I actually commented on it on air, and people were coming back to me and saying, it is Thin Lizzy. It's basically, which I didn't know. I didn't even know that Thin Lizzy had sort of, I don't know if there still is a current version, but the reformed version with, what's he called, Ricky Warwick, and John Sykes, and I think Brian Downey was involved for a while, and Scott Gorham. I didn't know they'd sort of got back together and were doing original stuff under the Black Star Riders moniker. But yeah, that album, All Hell Breaks Loose, if you don't know it, check it out. It's an absolute belter of an album. If you like old Thin Lizzy stuff, then you like this. It's kind of like it's like a lost classic Thin Lizzy album. Really, really good. Malcolm Spillett's saying, most repeated album is Steely Dan's Pretzel Logic. My 3 young granddaughters sing along. They're age 5, 7, and 9. Yes, Pretzel Logic is a good Steely Dan album. It's probably my second favourite Steely Dan album. I would say that the top one for me is the first one, Can't Buy a Thrill. I just love every track on that. Frankly, on Pretzel Logic, there's there's 1 or 2 tracks that I'm thinking, yeah, it's okay, but let's get to the next one. That East St. Louis Toodaloo is, I used to like it, but it's like I've heard it too many times. But Can't Buy a Thrill, is for me, I mean, Dirty Work, which, funnily enough, it's I can't remember who sings on Dirty Work, but it's not like Donald Fagen. For some reason, I think it was kind of Nerves or something like that. He didn't sing on that. I forget the name of the guy who did, but I think it's an absolutely fantastic song. It's one of the standout tracks on the album for me. And of course, Do It Again and Reeling in the Years and Midnight Cruiser and Turn That Heartbeat Over Again and Brooklyn Owes the Charmer Under Me. All of those songs, absolutely love them. Ever considered REO Speedwagon? Now there's says Scotty the Fox. I have now, mate. Yeah, REO Speedwagon. What was that album? High Infidelity. I remember having that. And Ozzy, here's music. Let's see what you've got to say there, mate. If you were lead guitarist in the best band ever, why change the sound? Yeah, true. I guess, yeah, exactly. I guess you're referring to Black Star Riders there. And Dave Lewis is saying, I saw Supertramp at Hammersmith Odeon. Crime of the Century and Crisis What Crisis in 1974. Joan Hammer Trading was the support act. Well, that'll be a good bill. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got that live album that they did, what's it called, Paris, which is live in Paris, I assume, is, a great album. That is another top 5 I'm thinking of doing about live albums because, quite often a lot of bands have more than one live album. And there is one particular live album that will always be thought of as the live album that band did, and quite often opinion may be divided, but sometimes the other live album is in many ways better. For instance, and this might be sacrilegious, but I'm going to say it anyway, shoot me down if you want, the Live and Dangerous by Thin Lizzy is a great album. But how many people also remember the live album from their farewell tour? It was called Life, where you had Gary Moore came out and did a turn, Brian Robertson, and basically all the whole pantheon of guitarists who'd been with Thin Lizzy all over the years all came out and kind of joined and did a turn with the band, and it's a fantastic live album, I think. It gets overshadowed a lot by Live and Dangerous. Likewise, my favourite Rory Gallagher live album is, people talk about Live in Europe or Irish Tour. But for me, it's Stage Struck. That's, for me, Rory's better live album. And it's just no more than a twinkle in the eye at the moment. Just a thought that's going on up here about it might be an interesting topic for a video. I often get these ideas where I'm thinking about, yeah, that'd be a good idea for a top 5, and I get to like 3, and then I'm sort of struggling. So I just kind of I just kind of park it for a little bit. Ozzy's saying, I know music is all about personal taste, but Thin Lizzy are officially the best band ever. Yeah, I mean, they're certainly a contender, Ozzy. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. It's I just think, you know, for a while, certainly, when they were peaking, you know, I mean, Black Rose for me was peak Thin Lizzy, mainly because Gary was with them. You know, that Black Rose album, I just don't think there's a bad song on it. It's just every song is just an instant classic. And then you get to the final song. You've heard like kind of With Love, which is the penultimate track on side 2, as I still think of it. That's kind of faded out, and then you get den 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 into Black Rose, and you just, oh yeah, I mean that's just an absolute killer album. Utterly love it. Rick Beato recently rated Thin Lizzy as the 17th best twin guitar band. The guy knows nothing. I wouldn't say he knows nothing. I think it's just more a reflection of the fact that you know, Thin Lizzy, I don't think were ever a massive band in the States. I think certainly when I talk to the American students that I've got, and the topic of bands and stuff comes up as it inevitably does. Thin Lizzy, you know, The Boys Are Back in Town is pretty much the limit of seems to be the limit of stateside knowledge of the band, where, you know, over here they were a much bigger deal. What you're saying there, Time Prophet? You've done Gary Moore, but you always miss my favourite, Nuclear Attack. Oh yes, now there's a song. My favourite version of that was from the live album. That was it. Rockin' Every Night live in Japan. That was a great live album. I remember having that on vinyl and cassette. And I shall have to see if that's, because it was another one of those albums that when you made the transition from vinyl to CD in the late 80s, it was one of those albums I could never find on CD. And there's a few albums that I couldn't get then, so I just thought, well, I'll catch up with that another time. And you forget about it. That Al Cooper and Shuggy Otis album was a case in point that I did a thing about a little while ago. Gosh, maybe a year or so back now. But yeah, that Rockin' Every Night live in Japan Gary Moore album, it's a real... I remember absolutely loving it. And partly, do you know, you ever had this? Where you really love an album and then you lose it, or it's not available, and you've made that transition from one format to another and you can't get hold of it, but you've got real fond memories of it. Do you ever get a little bit nervous about going back and revisiting it in case it's not as good as you remember? You know, that's happened once or twice to me. It has to be said. Ian Clark saying, would Thin Lizzy have cracked the US if Gary Moore hadn't walked off the tour? Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, the reason why Gary walked off the tour, well, he can explain it himself, or he certainly did explain it himself. If you, it's on YouTube somewhere, there's an interview with Gary from around about the time where he's explaining his reasons for leaving in the middle of the tour. And to be honest, you're only hearing his side of the story, but he did seem to have valid reasons for, leaving. And moreover, those reasons that he quoted have sort of been corroborated by Scott Gorham in more recent interviews, where he said, yeah, you were kind of right because of all the stuff that was going on. And obviously they've sort of got past it. And now when Gary sadly passed away 11 years ago, dear me, when Gary passed away, he was, him and Scott were on good terms, and, they'd got past it, but there was friction there why Gary felt he needed to leave. the sensational Alex Harvey band were the best live band ever. Were they the ones where the guy was dressed as the clown or the Piero, with the makeup and everything? What was he called? Zal Clemenson. That was them, wasn't it? Let's have a look. Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds with Phil Lynott on it when I was 8 years old. Jeff Wayne has modernised it and it's crap. Don't you hate it when people rework stuff and ruin it? Yeah, I can't agree more with that, because it's like they're trampling over your memories. It's like, how dare, because it's their music and fair enough, they've got the right to do whatever they want with it. But when they kind of rework it, it's like Jeff Lynne, a few years back, decided he was going to do new productions of all the old ELO stuff. And much as I love Jeff Lynne, and much as I love the kind of new output, the Jeff Lynne's ELO stuff that's come out, what's the album? From Out of Nowhere, that's a great album. And can't think of the other one. But anyway, he's done at least a couple of albums of this new lineup of ELO, which is basically just him recording all the parts. Great stuff. But don't mess with the old stuff. It's good. I don't want to hear a reworked version of Mr. Blue Sky or Telephone Line or Hold On Tight or any of that sort of stuff. No, it was all right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Check out these young American musicians, John. Their version of ELO's Strange Magic is awesome. Speaking of ELO, okay. Well, you'll have to tell me who I need to check out, mate. Yeah, Time Prophet. I've still got the original War of the Worlds as well. Where are we? Rob's the boy saying he loves ELO. Evening, Robert, by the way. I didn't catch you. You were in earlier. Now, yes, one of the best live bands I ever saw was Screaming Lord Sutch. He came on in a coffin and was Dracula. Good fun and some good sounds. Back in 1992, so again, round about 30 years ago, a mate of mine was setting himself up in business as a gig promoter, and it was just in the run-up to an election we were having in this country. And as you know, Screaming Lord Sutch always used to stand as a candidate for the Monster Raving Loony Party at any election. So he thought he'd cash in on that and put Screaming Lord Sutch on at Middlesbrough Town Hall. And I went along to it, and what an absolute headbanger he was, Screaming Lord Sutch. He was absolutely, in a good way, just a real fun guy, but completely, not completely on this planet, it has to be said. Did an absolutely storming show, fantastic show. And, I like a beer. You may have noticed I like a beer. Oh, I see we've got our idiots back again. I like a beer. But I made the mistake of trying to match Screaming Lord Sutch with pint for pint, and it got very messy afterwards. Dear me, the guy was he was fond of a drink. Yeah, I know we've got another idiot in the chat. It's just ignore them. It's, if you interact with them, I'm reliably informed, if you interact with them, it only encourages them. So, they've left us alone for a while, and frankly, it's not like anybody's poking you in the ribs with a sharp stick, is it? You can just ignore them, and it doesn't do it. They're not causing us any grief that we can't just ignore. So just ignore them. Excuse me, chaps. I've just realised my glass is empty, and that will not do. Deep Purple were the best live band. They were streets ahead of everyone, and I've seen Zepp and Floyd. Again, live albums by bands that often get overshadowed by a live album by another band. I got to tell you, when it comes to a Deep Purple live album, and I'm going to get some hate for this, but I don't. Oh, Flake, by the way, but I don't care. My favourite Deep Purple live album, and there's more than one to choose from, isn't Made in Japan. Made in Japan, I don't know. It just seems like every third or fourth bar you hear Richie Blackmore hitting a bum note. Probably not that often, but that was just my perception of it when I listened to it. I think it was one of those albums that it was because I'd heard all the hype about the album for like a year or two or maybe more before I actually heard it. Maybe my expectations were too much. And it was just, okay. But for me, the best Deep Purple live album is Live at the Olympia, 96, with Steve Morse on guitar. I get so much flack for this, saying that I prefer the Steve Morse era of Deep Purple. I just do. The Richie era, yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't good, but, and the whole sort of Tommy Bolin era, well, nah, frankly. But the Steve Morse era, I've got all of the albums, right the way back from Perpendicular, which I think was the first album he did. Live at the Olympia '96 is the album of the Perpendicular tour, and it's just a fantastic album. And again, I mean, just one of my favorite Deep Purple songs. Sometimes I feel like screaming. It's just a fantastic track, and that is the definitive version of it. Time Prophet saying it's not a bum note, it's jazz. Where are we? Let's have a look. Oh yes, gosh, it's the idiot in the chat is persistent. Yes. Now I remember that album, Cal. Was it Packing Up the Plantation or something like that? I remember the Plantation live album, because I first heard Tom Petty on. I first discovered Tom Petty on Live Aid. They did American Girl, Tom Petty and the Heartbreaks on Live Aid. I think they did American Girl, Refugee, and one other song. I thought, how come I've never heard of this band or this guy? And then, as you do, you're in your local branch of Our Price or HMV or other record shops, and there's this Tom Petty live album. So I bought it and absolutely loved it. And again, another one that kind of got lost along the way as I moved from vinyl to CD to MP3 to Spotify. It's Tom Petty live. I'm going to be searching Spotify for that later. If it has more than 3 chords, it's jazz, says Frank Zappa. Where are we? Somebody's saying, what about Joe Satriani? I love Satch, to be honest with you. He's one of the few sort of 80s shreddery kind of guys that really makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I'm not sure. Has he done a live album? I might be wrong, but there certainly isn't like a live album that... I see what you're saying. Yes, because you're talking about Satch's time with Deep Purple. Sorry, the brain is getting foggy. The beer is going down. Dave, get a couple of moderators who can deal with these idiots. I prefer really to just ignore them because they don't crop up that often, and it's, frankly, as I say, it's not like somebody's poking you in the ribs with a sharp stick. We can ignore an idiotic comment and just, kind of get on with our lives, can't we? James Falcon is saying Apple Music is better than Spotify, and I hate Apple. I don't know. I've never tried Apple Music. Spotify was. I used to be on a guitar forum that's long since defunct in about 2007, 2008, and there was one of the guys who posted on there, said, put in a post like, has anybody tried this new service called Spotify? And it was the first time I'd heard of it. So I went and checked it out, and I thought, well, this is pretty good. And of course, then there wasn't a lot of stuff on there, but it was an interesting thing. And then I had a free account for years, which I didn't really use that much. And then a couple of years ago, somebody got me, I think it was, to my shame, I can't remember who it was. But basically for Christmas, I got a year's premium subscription, and I've just kept it up ever since, because it's just, for me, I mean, for a tenner a month, for unlimited access to every piece of music pretty much that's ever been recorded, then, I mean, back when it first started, and AC/DC weren't on there, and the Beatles weren't on there. There was like some serious omissions, but now there's, I mean, dear me, even I'm on Spotify. Just saying, where are we? Let's have a look. Joe Satriani has a live double CD called Time Machine. Yes, of course he does. Yes, I remember it now. I remember the buzz about it in the guitar magazines when it came out, and for some reason I never ended up getting it. Is it any good? Is the first question. Where are we? Let's just have a look and see what else has been going on in the chat. Why not just jump to Eric Johnson, do a beginner lesson on Cliffs of Dover? I cannot tell you how many times I've attempted to learn Cliffs of Dover. And a wise man once said, better know your limitations than let other people find them out for you. I know my limitations. I can do the odd little bit of the flashy stuff when the occasion demands it, but Eric Johnson, Cliffs of Dover, that is, like many things, beyond my league. It is a video I might try and do, though, at some point, the solos that have defeated me, and that would certainly be one of them. So, a beginner's version of Cliffs of Dover. Well, I could show you. It's a relatively simple chord sequence. It's basically, as I remember, it's essentially a 1-4-5 thing, isn't it? But it's what he does over the top of it that is incredible. Yeah, Craig, I'm with you on that, mate. Got into so much music because of Spotify recommendations. That is one of the features that I really, really like. You put on an album, and you get to the end of the album, and it just thinks, okay, so you like that sort of stuff. Well, you might like this as well, and you might like this, and you might like this. And, I've got into so much stuff from that, and rediscovered stuff like that. I mean, as I say, it was because of a Spotify recommendation that I rediscovered that Al Cooper, Shuggy Otis album, which if you just go and check it out, Al Cooper and Shuggy Otis, fantastic. Lawrence Hastings is talking about live performances. Jeff Beck at Ronnie Scott's. Yeah, now there's another great Jeff Beck live album as well. It's called Live Plus, which is just utterly fantastic. It tends to be more of his later career stuff, but it is, it's just the control that guy has got. When you consider that the tone he plays with is, an absolutely screaming valve amp on the brink of feedback and kind of utter chaos. And he coaxes it and nurtures it and controls it just to perfection and coaxes some of the most tender sounds out of it. He is just an utter virtuoso. If ever the term virtuoso was deserved by anyone, then Jeff Beck is certainly it. Let's have a look. Where are we? Somebody's saying about... Ozzy's saying, I did play Cliffs of Dover live. No one knew it was 80% speed. Yeah. And Kim's Workshop saying, hi, John. Hi, Kim's Workshop. How are you, mate? Pink Floyd used to do great live albums. Yeah, I mean, Pulse. I mean, do you remember when the CD of Pulse came out? That little blinking LED on the CD case. And the idiots are back. Ignore them, everyone. They're not poking you in the leg with a sharp stick. Time Prophet is saying that Malmsteen is a true virtuoso. I can't deny that. His level of technical ability is probably way beyond, anyone. Although I would say probably Guthrie Govan could probably show him the ropes. But the difference between Yngwie Malmsteen and Guthrie Govan is that I actually like Guthrie Govan's music. I've told this anecdote many times, but back in the 80s when Yngwie was the big name in all the guitar magazines and, he was, everybody was talking about him, I actually managed to get his album. I think it was it Marching Out or Rising Force? It was one of those two. I forget which one it was. It was on vinyl. And from the beginning to the end of side one, I went from being gobsmacked, oh my God, this is amazing, to being bored. And I don't think I ever flipped the album over to listen to side two. I can't deny the guy's technical ability, and he has this attitude that if you don't like his music, it's because you're jealous. I'm not, well, I am maybe a little bit, but it's just his music just kind of, because it's just so intense, it's just like you never have room to take a breath, and it's whereas with Satriani. And as I say, Guthrie Govan, there's just, it's not like they're trying to keep the melody a secret from the listener, which is something you think that Yngwie often is, because, I could play 3 notes here and make a powerful statement, but no, I'm going to play 300 and prove what an awesome technician I am. And on that note, chaps, it's 58 minutes in, and I'm at the end of my final beer. And there's a curry downstairs with my name on it. So once again, 196 of you, thank you so much for turning up on a Friday evening or Friday, whatever time it is in your part of the world, and listening to a fat, bald northern gobshite talk bollocks for an hour. It has been a blast, as it always is, and I'll keep on doing it, as I always say, till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.